Alam Yasharala. Welcome. This is week 10 of our Torah portion. We had an abrupt stoppage last week, but we're going to start off right where we left off in Genesis 29, verse 31, and we're going to go through chapters 33, verse 20. Without further ado, y'all know the deal. We're going to pray, and then we're going to blow the trumpets, okay? I'm not going to forget to blow the trumpets. All right? But we're going to pray first. Let's get it. Barak Hashem, Haya, Bahashem, Yeshaya. For all that you do and all that you are, Abba, we ask for you to enlighten our minds and open our eyes and give us discernment and wisdom to sort out this place that we call life and all the obstacles we have, that we do not murmur, we do not complain. We understand that this is the process given, and that we just pray to be given eyes to see, ears to hear, and strength to endure. Humble our Ruach Saba, discipline us, just do not let us go. Show mercy upon your people and those seeking your face that is lost. And in all, Abba, Tawada, thank you for this day that you have made. Ba'ashem Yasha, Amen and Amen. All right. Now let's blow the trumpets. Numbers 10:10. We shall blow the trumpets on his solemn feast days. And if you don't know, I like saying this every once in a while here. Okay. If you don't know, if you're blowing a trumpet from an animal's horn that ain't a ram's horn, it's not biblical. Those kudu, spiraling long horns that's coming from a kudu bull, it's not good. I wouldn't recommend blowing those because I don't think that would honor the Most High's biblical shofar. But let's blow it. If you don't have a shofar, just give a shout of praise. Let's do it. All right. Let's get right into it. Quick share screen. Might be a quick blackout. It'll pop right back up. Just give me a second. All right. Here we are. Genesis 29, verse 31, week 10. Let's begin right there at verse 31. Now the children is coming forth. First from Leah, starting verse 31. When the Adon saw that Leah was unloved, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and gave birth to a son, and she named him Reuben. For she said, the Adon has seen my affliction. Surely my husband will love me now. Again, she conceived and gave birth to a son. And she said, because the Adon has heard that I am unloved, he has given me this son as well. So she named him Simeon. Once again, Leah conceived and gave birth to a son. And she said, now at last my husband will become attached to me because I have borne him 3 sons. So he was named Levi. And once more she conceived and gave birth to a son and said, this time I will praise the Adon. So she named him Judah. Then Leah stopped having children. All right. We're going to just keep going. Not going to have any stoppage here. Just going to go because it just continues with the childbearing in the beginning of chapter 30. All right, so I'm going to let the audio reader take the wheel here, and let's continue reading verse 1 of 30.
Genesis 30. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing any children for Jacob, she envied her sister. Give me children, or I will die, she said to Jacob. Jacob became angry with Rachel and said, am I in the place of God, who has withheld children from you? Then she said, here is my maidservant Bilhah. Sleep with her, that she may bear children for me, so that through her I too can build a family. So Rachel gave Jacob her servant Bilhah as a wife, and he slept with her. And Bilhah conceived and bore him a son. Then Rachel said, God has vindicated me. He has heard my plea and given me a son. So she named him Dan. And Rachel's servant Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, In my great struggles I have wrestled with my sister and won. So she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children, she gave her servant Zilpah to Jacob as a wife. And Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, How fortunate! So she named him Gad. When Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a second son, Leah said, How happy I am! For the women call me happy. So she named him Asher. Now during the wheat harvest, Reuben went out and found some mandrakes in the field. When he brought them to his mother, Rachel begged Leah, Please give me some of your son's mandrakes. But Leah replied, Is it not enough that you have taken away my husband? Now you want to take my son's mandrakes as well? Very well, said Rachel. He may sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes. When Jacob came in from the field that evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, You must come with me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. So he slept with her that night. And God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore a fifth son to Jacob. Then Leah said, God has rewarded me for giving my maidservant to my husband. So she named him Issachar. Again Leah conceived and bore a sixth son to Jacob. God has given me a good gift, she said. This time my husband will honor me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she named him Zebulun. After that, Leah gave birth to a daughter, and named her Dinah.
All right. We're going to 24. We're going to 24, a little bit more here.
Then God remembered Rachel. He listened to her and opened her womb, and she conceived and gave birth to a son. God has taken away my shame, she said. She named him Joseph, and said, May the Lord add to me another son.
All right. And we know that's foreshadowing for Benjamin, but Benjamin won't come for years later. So right now we're at 11 sons and 1 daughter being recorded. So just a visual recap here. We have Leah having Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. And then there's a stoppage. And then Rachel tells Bilhah, gives Bilhah to Jacob. And then we have 5 and 6 from Dan and Naphtali. And then we have Zilpah giving Gad and Asher for 7 and 8. Back to Leah for Issachar and Zebulun for 9 and 10. And then Rachel's firstborn son, Joseph, with the foreshadowing of Benjamin for our recap there. And then also here, go back to Genesis. I mean, just, obviously some of the circumstances, like just some old school stuff when Leah goes, it says to Jacob, verse 16, Leah went out to meet him and said, You must come with me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. Just interesting circumstances of structure. And I guess obviously Jacob had to consent to it, but he did for the trade-off for these mandrakes. So let's talk about these mandrakes that Rachel made such a big deal out of. So mandrakes were believed to be a stimulant to help with fertility and conception in a barren woman. And I mean, you could look this up. I mean, it's still a herb that people can and do take for fertility. So that is, I mean, in a nutshell, in the most simplest form, that's all it was, is that mandrakes obviously had to be some type of rarity for her to act like that with it. And so when she heard about them, she says, I'm going all in with this. I'm going all in with Abba's herbs, right? And it worked. It worked. All right, continuing now with verse 25.
Now after Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me on my way, so I can return to my homeland. Give me my wives and children for whom I have served you, that I may go on my way. You know how hard I have worked for you." But Laban replied, "If I have found favor in your eyes, please stay. I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you." And he added, "Name your wages, and I will pay them." Then Jacob answered, "You know how I have served you, and how your livestock have thrived under my care. Indeed, you had very little before my arrival, but now your wealth has increased many times over. The Lord has blessed you wherever I set foot. But now, when may I also provide for my own household?" "What can I give you?" Laban asked. "You do not need to give me anything," Jacob replied. "If you do this one thing for me, I will keep on shepherding and keeping your flocks. Let me go through all your flocks today, and remove from them every speckled or spotted sheep, every dark-colored lamb, and every spotted or speckled goat. These will be my wages. So my honesty will testify for me when you come to check on my wages in the future. If I have any goats that are not speckled or spotted, or any lambs that are not dark-colored, they will be considered stolen." "Agreed," said Laban. "Let it be as you have said." That very day Laban removed all the streaked or spotted male goats, and every speckled or spotted female goat, every one that had any white on it, and every dark-colored lamb, and he placed them under the care of his sons. Then he put a 3-day journey between himself and Jacob, while Jacob was shepherding the rest of Laban's flocks. Jacob, however, took fresh branches of poplar, almond, and plane trees, and peeled the bark, exposing the white inner wood of the branches. Then he set the peeled branches in the watering troughs in front of the flocks coming in to drink. So when the flocks were in heat and came to drink, they mated in front of the branches, and they bore young that were streaked or speckled or spotted. Jacob set apart the young, but made the rest face the streaked, dark-colored sheep in Laban's flocks. Then he set his own stock apart, and did not put them with Laban's animals. Whenever the stronger females of the flock were in heat, Jacob would place the branches in the troughs, in full view of the animals, so that they would breed in front of the branches. But if the animals were weak, he did not set out the branches. So the weaker animals went to Laban, and the stronger ones to Jacob. Thus Jacob became exceedingly prosperous. He owned large flocks, maidservants and menservants, and camels and donkeys.
All right, we're going to read Jasher now. And we're going to recap this entire chapter in the book of Jasher. We're going to be in chapter 31. And I apologize for the small print, but open up your Jasher and read along if you can't read from the small print that's on the screen here. I am going to read verses 14 all the way to 34 from chapter 30 here. And the Adon saw that Leah was hated, and the Adon opened her womb, and she conceived and bare Jacob 4 sons in those days. And these are their names: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. And she afterwards left bearing. And at that time Rachel was barren, and she had no offspring. And Rachel envied her sister Leah. And when Rachel saw that she bare no children to Jacob, she took her handmaid Bilhah, and she bare Jacob 2 sons, Dan and Naphtali. And when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she also took her handmaid Zilpah, and she gave her to Jacob for a wife. And Jacob also came to Zilpah And she also bare Jacob 2 sons, Gad and Asher. And Leah again conceived and bare Jacob in those days 2 sons and 1 daughter. And these are their names, Issachar, Zebulun, and their sister Dinah. And Rachel was still barren in those days. And Rachel prayed unto the Adon at that time. And she said, O Adon Elohim, remember me and visit me. I beseech thee, for now my husband will cast me off, for I have borne him no children. Now, O Adon Elohim, hear my supplication before thee, and see my affliction, and give me children like one of the handmaids, that I may no more bear my reproach. And Elohim heard her and opened her womb. This is obviously at the time of the mandrakes. And Rachel conceived and bare a son, and she said, the Adon has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, may the Adon add to me another son. And Jacob was 91 years old when she bare him. At that time, Jacob's mother, Rebekah, sent her nurse, Deborah, the daughter of Uz, and 2 of Isaac's servants unto Jacob. And they came to Jacob to Haran, and they said unto him, Rebekah has sent us to thee, that thou shalt return to thy father's house, to the land of Canaan. And Jacob hearkened unto them in this which his mother has spoken. At that time, the other 7 years which Jacob served Laban for Rachel were completed. And it was at the end of 14 years that he had dwelt in Haran that Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wives and send me away, that I may go to my land. For behold, my mother did send unto me from the land at Canaan, that I should return to my father's house. And Laban said unto him, not so, I pray thee. If I have found favor in thy sight, do not leave me. Appoint me thy wages, and I will give them, and remain with me. Because now he's not working for his wives anymore. Now Laban's trying to compensate him in other ways to stay. Verse 26. And Jacob said unto him, this is what thou shalt give me for my wages, that I shall this day pass through all thy flock, and take away from every lamb that is speckled and spotted, and such as are brown amongst the sheep and amongst the goats. And if thou wilt do this thing for me, I will return and feed thy flock, and keep them as at first. And Laban did so. And Laban removed from his flock all that Jacob had said, and gave them to him. And Jacob placed all that he had removed from Laban's flock in the hands of his sons. And Jacob was feeding the remainder of Laban's flock. And when the servants of Isaac, which had sent unto Jacob, saw that Jacob would not then return with them to the land of Canaan to his father, they then went away from him, and they returned home to the land of Canaan. And Deborah remained with Jacob in Haran, and she did not return with the servants of Isaac to the land of Canaan. And Deborah resided with Jacob's wives and children in Haran. And Jacob served Laban 6 years longer. And when the sheep brought forth, Jacob removed from such as were speckled and spotted, as he had determined with Laban. And Jacob did so at Laban's for 6 years. And the man increased abundantly, and had cattle and maidservants and manservants, camels and asses. And Jacob had 200 drove of cattle, and his cattle were of large size and of beautiful appearance, and were very productive. And all the families of the sons of men desired to get some of the cattle of Jacob, for they were exceedingly prosperous. And many of the sons of men came to procure some of Jacob's flock, and Jacob gave them a sheep for a manservant or a maid servant, or for an ass or a camel, or whatever Jacob desired from them, they gave him. And Jacob obtained riches and honor and possessions by means of these transactions with the sons of men. And the children of Laban envied him of this honor. Okay. Now getting a lot of story mode. So I just wanted to get all the reading down, wrap our head around everything from both books, Jasher and Genesis. Now let's get into some of the details in chapter 30. Well, we see that in verse 27 here in the Berean translation, it says, I have learned by divination that the Most High has blessed me because of you. Well, we'll see in these coming chapters that Laban, and in the book of Jasher, Laban does witchcraft, divination, and Rachel actually takes his things that he does with these practices that we'll read a little later. So not surprising, this is spoken of, at least in this translation. It's not outright said in KJV. Let's go to 27 here in the KJV. What does it say? If I have found favor, tarry, for I have learned by experience. A little different in different translations, but either way, he 100% does divination and witchcraft, as stated in the Berean translation here. And now we see that the deal for Jacob and his wages is going to be the spotted or brown of the goats and the sheep. And okay, that makes sense. So you can decipher whose is who, right? That's what he says. So if we know whose is who, I can't steal yours because yours look different than mine. Okay, that's simple and makes sense. Then it gets real like crazy when we start talking about verse 37 and on. Jacob, however, took fresh branches of poplar, almond, and plane trees, peeled the bark, and exposing the white inner wood of the branches, he set the peeled branches in the watering troughs in front of the flocks coming in to drink. All right, so what is being applied here is that these tree branches being put in the water, the chemical compounds from these trees, when they drink, when they're in heat, it changes something in their body compounds to help produce spotted animals. And of course, there's science to this. So I had to go and do my due diligence on this topic, and I found this. All right. So I have the link right here if you want to look up this article yourself that I found it on. So I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs here. Here, let me zoom in as much as I can here. Okay. Read a couple paragraphs here. There is a gene, the agouti gene, that determines the color in animals' fur. If all the agouti genes in the cells are turned either on or off, the animal will be solid colored. But if this gene is turned on in some cells and off in others, the animal will be speckled, streaked, or spotted. In this image, there are 5 cloned mice, yet their fur looks different. The mouse on the far left has all of its agouti genes turned on and thus is solid yellow. The mouse on the far right has all of its agouti genes turned off and it is solid brown. But the 3 mice in the middle have some of the agouti genes turned on and some turned off, and their fur is streaked, speckled, and spotted. But what turns the agouti gene on or off? The diet of the mother when she is pregnant. If the diet has certain nutrients, the gene is turned either on or off, thus changing the expression in the fur of the animal. And this change will pass down up to 4 generations, thereby increasing the number of speckled, spotted, or streaked offspring. All right, so we starting to get what's going on with Jacob's philosophy of the branches being put in the water. But is this true only in mice? No. Recent research has documented that the branches of the trees chosen by Jacob do in fact provide the nutrients needed to alter the expression of the agouti gene, which does in turn alter the color of the lambs born. And I'll just stop at that. If you want to look more into it, like I said, there's the link right there for you. So, I mean, is this book, this ancient book that we're just learning stuff in our time, and we're supposed to be so advanced that they were doing stuff that is so over our heads. It just shows you that the Most High is in everything. And we'll see in the coming chapters that Jacob was given some form of knowledge of this because he was given a dream about having these spotted animals. And ain't no way Jacob figured this out on his own. Either it was some form of knowledge back in the day, or the Most High told him himself, because wow, it's just unbelievable. You would know to get 3 different trees, put them in the water, and control this birthing system for your cattle. It's just very advanced and extraordinary to wrap your head around. But like I said, we'll look more into this dream that the Most High foreshadowed for him to do something like this. All right. And so that is the conclusion of chapter 30. Chapter 31.
Genesis 31. Now Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, Jacob has taken away all that belonged to our father, and built all this wealth at our father's expense. And Jacob saw from the countenance of Laban that his attitude toward him had changed. Then the Lord said to Jacob, Go back to the land of your fathers, and to your kindred, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent word and called Rachel and Leah to the field where his flocks were. And he told them, I can see from your father's countenance that his attitude toward me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength, and although he has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times, God has not allowed him to harm me. If he said, The speckled will be your wages, then the whole flock bore speckled offspring. If he said, The streaked will be your wages, then the whole flock bore streaked offspring. Thus God has taken away your father's livestock and given them to me. When the flocks were breeding, I saw in a dream that the streaked, spotted, and speckled males were mating with the females. In that dream, the angel of God said to me, Jacob. And I replied, Here I am. Look up, he said, and see that all the males that are mating with the flock are streaked, spotted, or speckled. For I have seen all that Laban has done to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar and made a solemn vow to me. Now get up and leave this land at once, and return to your native land. And Rachel and Leah replied, Do we have any portion or inheritance left in our father's house? Are we not regarded by him as outsiders? Not only has he sold us, but he has certainly squandered what was paid for us. Surely all the wealth that God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. So do whatever God has told you. Then Jacob got up and put his children and his wives on camels, and he drove all his livestock before him, along with all the possessions he had acquired in Padan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. Now while Laban was out shearing his sheep, Rachel stole her father's household idols. Moreover, Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean by not telling him that he was running away. So he fled with all his possessions, crossed the Euphrates, and headed for the hill country of Gilead.
All right, we'll stop there. Woo! So Jacob is actually commanded to leave by the Most High, saying to go back to the land of your fathers now. Like, he's been there long enough, and there's no more that you can get from being here with Laban at this point. And I did, when I was reading this in the Septuagint, in a couple of verses, just an interesting point here. Verse 7, although he has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. It reads a little bit different in the Septuagint. Let's go read that. Verse 7 of chapter 31. But your father deceived me, changing my wages for the 10 lambs. So instead of saying he changes wages 10 times, the Septuagint is claiming that he changes wages, and I'm assuming the speck and spotted lambs that he received once separated originally was 10 lambs, saying that that's what he received when the wages was changed. And he also just double down on it. It's said again in verse 41. Verse 41. And though falsely change my wages for 10 lambs. Just thought it was interesting that it was the perspective of saying like my wages was changed for only 10 lambs of all of this, or changed 10 times. Just, I guess, something to look into there. And so outside of that, back into the book of Jasher. Still in chapter 31, we're going to continue with verse 35 through 45. And in that course of time, he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's has he acquired all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban and of his children, and behold, it was not towards him in those days as it had been before. And the Adon appeared to Jacob at the expiration of the 6 years, and said unto him, Arise, go forth out of this land, and return to the land of thy birthplace, and I will be with thee. Jacob rose up at that time, and he mounted his children and his wives, and all belonging to him, upon camels, and he went forth to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. And Laban did not know that Jacob had gone from him, for Laban had been that day sheep shearing. And Rachel stole her father's images, that divination we were talking about last chapter, and she took them and concealed them upon the camel upon which she sat, and she went on. And this is the manner of the images. In taking a man who is the firstborn and slaying him, and taking the hair off of his head, and taking salt and salting the head, and anointing it in oil, then taking a small tablet of copper or a tablet of gold, and writing the name upon it, and placing the tablet under his tongue, and taking the head with the tablet under the tongue, and putting it in the house, and lighting up lights before it, and bowing down to it. Whoa, what a description of an altar that Laban had. Crazy. Continuing, verse 42. And at that time, when they bow down to it, it speaketh to them in all matters that they ask of it, through the power of the name which is written in it. And some make them in the figures of men of gold and silver, and go to them in times known to them. And the figures receive the influence of the stars, and tell them future things. In this manner were the images which Rachel stole from her father. And Rachel stole these images which were her father's, in order that Laban might not know through them where Jacob had gone. And Laban came home, and he asked concerning Jacob and his household, and he was not to be found. And Laban sought his images to know where Jacob had gone, and could not find them. And he went to some other images, and he inquired of them, and they told him that Jacob had fled from him to his fathers to the land of Canaan. Wow, there's some good details in the story right there. All right, going back now to the book of Genesis. We're going to continue reading at verse 22.
On the third day, Laban was informed that Jacob had fled. So he took his relatives with him, pursued Jacob for 7 days, and overtook him in the hill country of Gilead. But that night God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream, and warned him, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country of Gilead, when Laban overtook him, and Laban and his relatives camped there as well. Then Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done? You have deceived me, and carried off my daughters like captives of war. Why did you run away secretly and deceive me without even telling me? I would have sent you away with joy and singing, with tambourines and harps. But you did not even let me kiss my grandchildren and my daughters goodbye. Now you have done a foolish thing. I have power to do you great harm. But last night the God of your father said to me, 'Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.' Now you have gone off because you long for your father's house. But why have you stolen my gods?" "I was afraid," Jacob answered, "for I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. If you find your gods with anyone here, he shall not live. In the presence of our relatives, see for yourself if anything is yours, and take it back." For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the idols. So Laban went into Jacob's tent, then Leah's tent, and then the tents of the 2 maidservants, but he found nothing. Then he left Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken Laban's household idols, put them in the saddlebag of her camel, and was sitting on them. And Laban searched everything in the tent, but found nothing. Rachel said to her father, "Sir, do not be angry that I cannot stand up before you, for I am having my period." So Laban searched, but could not find the household idols. Then Jacob became incensed and challenged Laban. "What is my crime?" he said. "For what sin of mine have you so hotly pursued me? You have searched all my goods. Have you found anything that belongs to you? Put it here before my brothers and yours, that they may judge between the 2 of us. I have been with you for 20 years now. Your sheep and goats have not miscarried, nor have I eaten the rams of your flock. I did not bring you anything torn by wild beasts. I bore the loss myself, and you demanded payment from me for what was stolen by day or night. As it was, the heat consumed me by day, and the frost by night, and sleep fled from my eyes. Thus for 20 years I have served in your household, 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flocks, and you have changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been with me, surely by now you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen my affliction and the toil of my hands, and last night he rendered judgment." But Laban answered Jacob, "These daughters are my daughters, these sons are my sons, and these flocks are my flocks. Everything you see is mine. Yet what can I do today about these daughters of mine, or the children they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it serve as a witness between you and me." So Jacob picked out a stone and set it up as a pillar. And he said to his relatives, "Gather some stones." So they took stones and made a mound, and there by the mound they ate. Laban called it Jagar-Saadutha, and Jacob called it Galeed. Then Laban declared, "This mound is a witness between you and me this day." Therefore the place was called Galeed. It was also called Mizpah, because Laban said, "May the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are absent from each other. If you mistreat my daughters, or take other wives, although no one is with us, remember that God is a witness between you and me." Laban also said to Jacob, "Here is the mound, and here is the pillar I have set up between you and me. This mound is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not go past this mound to harm you, and you will not go past this mound and pillar to harm me. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us." So Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and invited his relatives to eat a meal. And after they had eaten, they spent the night on the mountain. Early the next morning, Laban got up and kissed his grandchildren and daughters and blessed them. Then he left to return home.
Good little chunk of storyline there. Yes, Laban's a very toxic person. Jacob knew he wasn't going to let him go freely, right? Laban knows how valuable Jacob was to his entire livelihood, especially at that time. So we're going to go to the book of Jasher now, chapter 31, and we will be reading 51 through 64. And Laban said unto Jacob, "We will make a covenant together, and it shall be a testimony between me and thee. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or shalt take other wives beside my daughters, even Elohim shall be a witness between me and thee in this matter." And they took stones and made a heap. And Laban said, "This heap is a witness between me and thee." Therefore he called the name thereof Gilead. And this is something that's repeated throughout the scripture. Obviously, I guess an old-fashioned way of setting up a place where an oath or a covenant is happening. This happens when they cross the Jordan. They take a stone from the Jordan and they make a heap mound of the stones. So it happens multiple times. Continuing. 53. And Jacob and Laban offered sacrifice upon the mount, and they ate there by the heap, and they tarried in the mount all night. And Laban rose up early in the morning, and he wept with his daughters and kissed them, and he returned unto his place. All right, so now we're about to get details that's only in the book of Jasher that shows just the wickedness of Laban. And he hastened and sent off his son Beor, who was 17 years old, with this name, the son of Uz, the son of Nahor. And with them were 10 men. And they hastened and went and passed on the road before Jacob. And they came by another road to the land of Seir. And they came unto Esau and said unto him, "Thus says thy brother and relative, thy mother's brother Laban, the son of Bethuel, saying, Has thou heard what Jacob thy brother has done unto me, who first came to me naked and bare? And I went to meet him and brought him to my house with honor, and I made him great. And I gave him my 2 daughters for wives, and also 2 of my maids. And Elohim blessed him on my account, and he increased in abundantly and has sons, daughters, and maidservants. He has also an immersed stock of flocks and herds, camels and asses, also silver and gold in abundance. And when he saw that his wealth increased, he left me while I went to shear my sheep, and he rose up and fled in secrecy. And he lifted his wives and children upon camels, and he led away all his cattle and property which he acquired in my land. And he lifted up his countenance to go to his father Isaac to the land of Canaan. And he did not suffer me to kiss my daughters or their children. And he led my daughters as captives taken by the sword, and he also stole my gods, and he fled. And now I have left him in the mountain of the brook of Jabbok, him and all belonging to him. He lacketh nothing. If it be thy wish to go to him, go then, and there wilt thou find him, and thou canst do unto him as thy soul desireth. I mean, wow. And Laban's messengers came and told Esau all these things. And Esau heard all the words of Laban's messengers, and his anger was greatly kindled against Jacob, and he remembered his hatred and his anger burned within him. Sabotage and bearing false witness, because I mean, as far as Laban know, Jacob didn't steal it. Well, Jacob didn't, but obviously Rachel did. But Jacob don't have any proof of the stealing of the idols, sabotaging him with his daughters and grandchildren. I mean, when you're wicked, it is what it is, I guess. Oh, and let me go to this. I actually forgot to show this picture. This is just, I mean, not that big of a deal. This is just a picture of a mother sheep having different color lambs. Forgot to show that with last chapter, but big of a deal. All right. And that's the conclusion of chapter 31. Just a good bit of the storyline we're going through right now. All right, Genesis 32.
Genesis 32. Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of God." So he named that place Mahanaim. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. He instructed them, "You are to say to my master Esau, 'Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban and have remained there until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, men servants, and maidservants. I have sent this message to inform my master, so that I may find favor in your sight.' When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, 'We went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, he and 400 men with him.'"
All right, let's stop there. Let's start off with the first two verses here. And Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of the Most High met him. It seems random, but there is going to be an army of angels that greets Esau in the book of Jasher. And I think this is the connection verse of these armies, the host sent from Elohim, right? And I wanted to look at this verse in the Targums, and it's verse 3 in the Targums. And Jacob said when he saw them, Jacob went on his way, and the angels of the Adon met him. And Jacob said when he saw them, "These are not the hosts of Esau who are coming to meet me, nor the hosts of Laban who have returned from pursuing me, but they are the hosts of the holy angels who are sent from before the Adon." Therefore, the name of that place he called. And that's the thing. There is a host of angels that is foreshadowing what's to come. It's just briefly mentioned in the Masoretic modern translations here in verse 1 and 2. So just remember, this is foreshadowing the host army that will be coming soon here. And then right here in verse 3, without the book of Jasher or any more context here, in verse 3 is just completely random. Completely random why Jacob would be like, "Hey, let's send messengers to my brother Esau." Why would Jacob send messengers to Esau to let him know anything when he could secretly go home to Canaan? When Esau is in Edom, the land of Seir. He's not even in Canaan. There's a reason why he sends messengers to Esau when he starts to travel after Laban. And we'll get this in the book of Jasher. So let's go to the book of Jasher now. We are going to be in finishing off chapter 31, reading 65 to the end of the chapter of 77, and then we will continue reading in chapter 32. All right, so let's start off as verse 65, chapter 31. And Esau hastened and took his children and servants and the souls of his household, being 60 men, and he went and assembled all the children of Seir, the Horite, and their people, being 340 men. and took all this number of 400 men with drawn swords, and he went unto Jacob to smite him. And Esau divided this number into several parts, and he took the 60 men of his children and servants and the souls of his household as one head, and gave them in the care of Eliphaz, his eldest son. And the remainder heads he gave to the care of the 6 sons of Seir the Horite, and he placed every man over his generations and children. And the whole of this camp went as it was, and Esau went amongst them towards Jacob, and he conducted them with speed. And Laban's messengers departed from Esau and went to the land of Canaan. And they came to the house of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. And they told her, saying, Behold, thy son Esau has gone against his brother Jacob with 400 men, for he heard that he was coming. And he is gone to make war with him and to smite him and to take all that he has. And Rebekah hastened and sent 72 men from the service of Isaac to meet Jacob on the road, for she said, peradventure, Esau may make war in the road when he meets him. And these messengers went on the road to meet Jacob, and they met him in the road of the brook on the opposite side of the brook of Jabbok. And Jacob said when he saw them, This camp is destined to me from Alaheim. And Jacob called the name of that place Machnaim. And Jacob knew all his father's people, and he kissed them and embraced them and came with them. And Jacob asked them concerning his father and mother, and they said they are well. And these messengers said unto Jacob, Rebekah thy mother has sent us to thee, saying, I have heard, my son, that thy brother Esau has gone forth against thee on the road with men from the children of Seir the Horite. And therefore, my son, hearken to my voice and see with thy counsel what thou wilt do. And when he cometh up to thee, supplicate him, and do not speak rashly to him, and give him a present from what thou possessest, and from what Alaheim has favored thee with. And when he asks thee concerning thy affairs, conceal nothing from him. Perhaps he may turn from his anger against thee, and thou wilt thereby save thy soul, thou and all belonging to thee. For it is thy duty to honor him, for he is thy elder brother. And when Jacob heard the words of his mother, which the messengers had spoken to him, Jacob lifted up his voice and wept bitterly, and did as his mother commanded him. All right, now we're getting some clarity on why, just at least so randomly in Genesis, Jacob just has an idea to send the messengers to Esau. So for whatever reason, Laban's messengers go to Esau, then he goes to Rebekah, and now is coming full circle with what's happening on the travels between Laban's messengers, Esau, and Jacob. But we're going to continue reading in the book of Jasher, beginning of Genesis 32 through 14. And at that time, Jacob sent messengers to his brother Esau towards the land of Seir, and he spoke to him words of supplication. And he commanded them, saying, Thus shall ye say to my Adon, to Esau, Thus says thy servant Jacob, Let not my Lord imagine that my father's blessing with which he did bless me has proved beneficial to me. For I have been these 20 years with Laban, and he deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, as it has all been already told unto my Lord. I served him in his house very laboriously, and Alaheim afterwards saw my affliction, my labor, and the work of my hands, and he caused me to find grace and favor in his sight. And I afterwards, through Alaheim's great mercy and kindness, acquired oxen and asses and cattle and men servants and maid servants. And now I am coming to my land and my home to my father and mother, who are in the land of Canaan. And I have sent to let my Lord know all this in order to find favor in the sight of my Lord, so that he may not imagine that I have of myself obtain wealth, or that the blessing with which my father blessed me has benefited me. And those messengers went to Esau and found him on the borders of the land of Edom, going towards Jacob. 400 men of the children of Seir the Horite were standing with drawn swords. And the messengers of Jacob told Esau all the words that Jacob had spoken to them concerning Esau. And Esau answered them with pride and contempt, and said unto them, Surely I have heard, and truly it has been told unto me what Jacob has done to Laban, who exalted him in his house and gave him his daughters for wives, and he begat sons and daughters, and abundantly increased in wealth and riches in Laban's house through his means. And when he saw that his wealth was abundant and his riches great, he fled with all belonging to him from Laban's house. And he led Laban's daughters away from the face of their fathers as captives, taken by the sword, without telling him of it. And not only to Laban has Jacob done thus, but also unto me has he done so, and has twice supplanted me. And shall I be silent? Now therefore I have this day come with my camps to meet him, and I will do unto him according to the desire of my heart. And the messengers returned and came to Jacob and said unto him, We came to thy brother to Esau, and he told him all thy words, and thus has he answered us. And behold, he cometh to meet thee with 400 men. Now then, know and see what thou shalt do, and pray before Elohim to deliver thee from him. All right. Now, back to chapter 32, verse 7.
In great fear and distress, Jacob divided his people into 2 camps, as well as the flocks and herds and camels. He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one camp, then the other camp can escape.
And real quick, the Targums has the camp separated by the wives, which I can see makes sense. 2 camps. We go to the Targums. Verse 8. And Jacob was greatly afraid, because for 20 years he had not been mindful of the glory of his father, and had anxiety. And he divided the people who were with him, the sheep, oxen, camels, into 3 troops, for a portion to Leah and a portion to Rachel. I don't know why it says 3 and then it goes to say 2. So obviously it was 2 portions, Leah and Rachel here. Verse 9.
And Jacob declared, O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, the Lord who told me, Go back to your country and to your kindred, and I will make you prosper. I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. Indeed, with only my staff I came across the Jordan, but now I have become 2 camps. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid that he may come and attack me and the mothers and children with me. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper, and I will make your offspring like the sand of the sea, too numerous to count. Jacob spent the night there, and from what he had brought with him, he selected a gift for his brother Esau: 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their young, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. He entrusted them to his servants in separate herds, and told them, Go on ahead of me, and keep some distance between the herds. He instructed the one in the lead, When my brother Esau meets you and asks, To whom do you belong? Where are you going? And whose animals are these before you? Then you are to say, They belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau. And behold, Jacob is behind us. He also instructed the second, the third, and all those following behind the herds, When you meet Esau, you are to say the same thing to him. You are also to say, Look, your servant Jacob is right behind us. for he thought, I will appease Esau with the gift that is going before me. After that I can face him, and perhaps he will accept me. So Jacob's gifts went on before him, while he spent the night in the camp.
All right, let's go to the book of Jasher. Right where we left off, verse 15 of chapter 32. We're going to read 15 through 26. And when he heard the words of his brother, which he had spoken to the messengers of Jacob, Jacob was greatly afraid and he was distressed. And Jacob prayed to the Adon Elohim, and he said, O Adon Elohim of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, thou didst say unto me when I went away from my father's house, saying, I am the Adon Elohim of thy father Abraham and the Elohim of Isaac. Unto thee I do give this land and thy seed after thee, and I will make thy seed as the stars of heaven, and thou shalt spread forth to the four sides of heaven. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And thou didst establish thy words, and didst give unto me riches, and the children and cattle, as the utmost wishes of my heart didst thou give unto thy servant. Thou didst give unto me all that I asked from thee, so that I lacked nothing. And thou didst afterwards say unto me, return to thy parents and to thy birthplace, and I will still do well with thee. And now that I have come, and thou didst deliver me from Laban, I shall fall in the hands of Esau, who will slay me, yea, together with the mothers of my children. Now therefore, O Adon Elohim, deliver me, I pray thee, also from the hands of my brother Esau, for I am greatly afraid of him. And there is no righteousness in him. Do it for the sake of Abraham and my father Isaac. For I know that through kindness and mercy I have acquired this wealth. Now therefore I beseech thee to deliver me this day with thy kindness and to answer me. And Jacob ceased praying to the Adon, and he divided the people that were with him with the flocks and cattle into two camps, and he gave the half of the care of Damascus, the son of Eleazar, Abraham's servant, for a camp with his children, and the other half he gave to the care of his brother, for a camp with his children. And he commanded them, saying, keep yourselves at a distance with your camps, and do not come too near each other. And if Esau come to one camp and slay it, the other camp at a distance from it will escape. And Jacob tarried there that night, and during the whole night he gave his servants instructions concerning the forces and his children. And the Adon heard the prayer of Jacob on that day, and the Adon then delivered Jacob from the hands of his brother Esau. Actually went to one verse too far, but we're going to stop right there. Going back to Genesis. All right. Verse 22 of chapter 32 of Genesis. Continuing the story.
During the night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, along with all his possessions. So Jacob was left all alone, and there a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower Jacob, he struck the socket of Jacob's hip and dislocated it as they wrestled. Then the man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. What is your name? The man asked. Jacob, he replied. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men, and you have prevailed. And Jacob requested, please tell me your name. But he replied, why do you ask my name? Then he blessed Jacob there. So Jacob named the place Peniel, saying, indeed, I have seen God face to face, and yet my life was spared. The sun rose above him as he passed by Penuel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore to this day the Israelites do not eat the tendon which is at the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was struck near that tendon.
All right, now
Genesis 32.
a little bit to unpack with Jacob wrestling with God here. Let's hit some scriptures. First, start off in Genesis 31:13. This was last chapter. The Most High doesn't forget. I am the God of Bethuel, where thou anointest the pillar and where thou vowest a vow unto me. Now arise and get thee out of this land and return unto the land of thy kindred. Very important. What is that vow? Vow is found in Genesis 28. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace. Where is he on his way to? To go back to his father's house. So this is coming full circle is what we're getting to here. Then shall Haya, the Alahim, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be Alahim's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the 10th unto thee. What was the vow? If the Most High protects him, provides for him, in whatever Jacob acquires to return to his father's home, Jacob will give a 10th. And that's why I mentioned in Genesis 31 that the Most High even makes a point there that I am the God that you made a vow to. So that's what this is all about. Let's continue in Genesis 24. And Abraham said unto his elder servant of his house that ruled over all that he had, put, I will pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and I will make thee swear by the Most High. And we'll just stop there. I'm pointing out here is that the part that was dislocated is the part that represents a covenant, a vow to swear and make an oath. And Jacob was dislocated where his thigh intended is located, where the circumcision is located. All of that represents him not keeping his vow. No, that's not why Abraham gave a 10th. A 10th has always been the standard in tithing in the Bible. This isn't the reason why they give a 10th. So we see the full understanding. The dislocation of his thigh is representing him not keeping the vow. He's on his way home, and he has yet to give any tithing of all the abundance that he has been given. And this is the discourse happening. Let me see here. Did I forget to put this verse? Yeah, hold on. I forgot to put this verse here. No, Deuteronomy 23:21. Why is it not there? Did I put the wrong verse? I'm confused. Why ain't that verse showing up? Very odd. I'll just read it myself. It ain't saying anything's wrong with it. Is it a wrong verse? It should pop up. Deuteronomy 23:21. Very odd that that's not showing up in here. Very odd. Don't know why. Okay. So all that being said, I'm going to read Deuteronomy 23:21 after the understanding of the thigh representing circumcision and oath being made. Oh, it's spelled wrong? Is that what I did? Ah, I see. I see. All right. So Deuteronomy 23:21, when thou shalt vow a vow unto the Most High, the Elohim, thou shalt not slack to pay it. For the Most High will surely acquire it from thee, and it would be sin in thee. I mean, man, do we understand and see what's going on right now? And so we keep going. Let's keep going. Creating a full understanding with scripture here. Isaiah 45:4, for Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel my elect. I have even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee, though you have not known me. And the next one too, Psalms 135:4, for the Most High has chosen Jacob unto himself and Israel, Yasharallah, for his peculiar treasure. We see that there is like two portions of people with the idea of Jacob and Yasharallah. Is that Jacob is a servant, a chosen servant, but Israel stands out as the elect and a peculiar treasure. It's like Jacob didn't maximize his full understanding of truly being a chosen people until after he wrestled with the angel of God. And then he started walking into his full understanding to be the elect, to be a treasure. It just seems very, very, I mean, and this is only 2 verses. You could find a handful of verses of a separation between Jacob and Israel. These 2 names, even though it's the same person, as if it is a story of Jacob's life as his name as Jacob, and then moving forward as Israel, Yasharallah. And all in all, the completion of chapter 32, I think, is summarized by Deuteronomy 8:10 through 14. When thou hast eaten and art full, then thou shalt bless the Most High, the Elohim, for the good land which he has given thee. Beware that thou forget not the Most High, in not keeping his commandments, his judgments, his statutes, which I command thee this day. Lest when thou hast eaten and art full, and hast built goodly houses and dwelt therein, and when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, Jacob, and thy silver and thy gold is multiplied, and all that thou hast is multiplied, then thy heart be lifted up, and thou forget the Most High, the Elohim, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. This is why we are given the commandment in Deuteronomy about praying and giving thanks after we have eaten and are full and satisfied, because you see right now with Jacob, when you're in trouble, when you're struggling to survive, it's not hard to call unto the Most High, because you need him more than, at least the comfort of life is removed, so you need him more. But when you're comfortable, it's easier not to call onto the Most High. And so this is, I think, a vital message of what we're reading about with Jacob wrestling with God, is that this is life. We all are going to wrestle with God in our own ways of figuring out how to do things and doing stuff our own way until we come back to his true Torah instructions. But the message is that we have to grow in this life, and we have to remain humble and learn how to give thanks, not just before, because everyone learns to, hey, make sure we give thanks or bless the food, but no one remembers to give thanks afterwards, which is actually a commandment. Let's start doing this in practice and repetition so it can be a part of everything we do in life, that we do not murmur, but we give thanks in times of hardships. All right. And that is chapter 32. Last chapter of this portion, chapter 33, verse 1.
Genesis 33. Now Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming toward him with 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maidservants. He put the maidservants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph at the rear. But Jacob himself went on ahead and bowed to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. Esau, however, ran to him and embraced him, threw his arms around his neck and kissed him. And they both wept.
All right, we're going to go. There was quite a bit that happened before this, which is what we're going to get in Jasher, chapter 32. We're going to start off at verse 27 through 40, and then I'm going to read 52 through 55. Okay, 27 through 40 first. And the Adon heard the prayer of Jacob on that day. And the Adon then delivered Jacob from the hands of his brother Esau. And the Adon sent 3 angels of the angels of heaven, and they went before Esau and came to him. And these angels appeared unto Esau and his people as 2,000 men, riding upon horses, furnished with all sorts of war instruments. And they appeared in the sight of Esau and all his men, to be divided into 4 camps, with 4 chiefs to them. And one camp went on, and they found Esau coming with 400 men towards his brother Jacob. And this camp ran towards Esau and his people and terrified them. And Esau fell off the horse in alarm, and all his men separated from him in that place, for they were greatly afraid. And the whole of the camp shouted after them when they fled from Esau. And all the warlike men answered, saying, surely we are the servants of Jacob, who is the servant of God. And who then can stand against us? And Esau said unto them, O then, my Adon and my brother is your Lord, whom I have not seen for these 20 years. And now that I have this day come to see him, do you treat me in this manner? And the angel answered him, saying, as the Adon liveth, were not Jacob, of whom thou speakest, thy brother, we had not let one remaining from thee in thy people, but only on account of Jacob we will do nothing to them. And this camp passed from Esau and his men and went away. And Esau and his men had gone from them about a league, when the second camp came towards him with all sorts of weapons. And they also did unto Esau and his men as the first camp had done to them. And when they had left it to go on, behold, a third camp came towards him, and they were all terrified. And Esau fell off the horse, and the whole camp cried out and said, surely we are the servants of Jacob, who is the servant of Elohim, and who can stand against us? And Esau again answered them, saying, O then, Jacob my Adon, and your Adon is my brother. And for 20 years I have not seen his countenance, and hearing this day that he is coming, I went this day to meet him, and do you treat me in this manner? And they answered him and said unto him, as the Adon liveth, were not Jacob thy brother, thou didst say, we had not left a remnant from thee and thy men, but on account of Jacob, of whom thou speakest, being thy brother, we will not meddle with thee and thy men. And on the third camp also passed from them, and he still continued his road with his men towards Jacob. when the fourth camp came towards him, and they also did unto him and his men as the others had done. And when Esau beheld the evil which the four angels had done to him and to his men, he became greatly afraid of his brother Jacob, and he went to him in peace. So this is the change that happens to Esau in this time frame. Verse 40. And Esau concealed his hatred against Jacob because he was afraid of his life on account of his brother Jacob, because he imagined that the four camps that he had alighted upon were Jacob's servants. Oh, we're going to continue to 52 through 55. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was at a distance, coming along with many men, about 400. And Jacob was greatly afraid of his brother. And Jacob hastened and divided his children unto his wives and his handmaids, and his daughter Dinah he put in a chest and delivered her into the hands of his servants. And he pressed before his children and wives to meet his brother, and he bowed to the ground. Yea, he bowed down 7 times until he approached his brother. And Elohim caused Jacob to find grace and favor in the sight of Esau and his men, for Elohim had heard the prayer of Jacob. And the fear of Jacob and his terror fell upon his brother Esau, for Esau was greatly afraid of Jacob for what the angels of Elohim had done to Esau. And Esau's anger against Jacob was turned into kindness. And this host, once again, that's why I said, I told you to remember what we read about in Genesis 32:1, that I think there was a reason for mentioning that Jacob came on the way and saw this host of angels that met him. And that's just what I believe the connection is. The purpose of him documenting and seeing this host of angels, I believe, is possibly the same host that went to go see Esau, which is why they were there. Oh, right there. Just wanted to show Genesis 31:2 there. All right. Let's finish chapter 33 now, starting with verse 5.
When Esau looked up and saw the women and children, he asked, "Who are these with you?" Jacob answered, "These are the children God has graciously given your servant." Then the maidservants and their children approached and bowed down. Leah and her children also approached and bowed down. And then Joseph and Rachel approached and bowed down. "What do you mean by sending this whole company to meet me?" asked Esau. "To find favor in your sight, my lord," Jacob answered. "I already have plenty, my brother," Esau replied. "Keep what belongs to you." But Jacob insisted, "No, please, if I have found favor in your sight, then receive this gift from my hand. For indeed, I have seen your face, and it is like seeing the face of God, since you have received me favorably. Please accept my gift that was brought to you, because God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need." So Jacob pressed him until he accepted. Then Esau said, "Let us be on our way, and I will go ahead of you." But Jacob replied, "My Lord knows that the children are frail, and I must care for sheep and cattle that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard for even a day, all the animals will die. Please let my Lord go ahead of his servant. I will continue on slowly, at a comfortable pace for the livestock and children, until I come to my Lord at Seir." "Let me leave some of my people with you," Esau said. But Jacob replied, "Why do that? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord." So that day Esau started on his way back to Seir, but Jacob went on to Succoth, where he built a house for himself and shelters for his livestock. That is why the place was called Succoth. After Jacob had come from Padan Aram, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem in the land of Canaan, and he camped just outside the city. And the plot of ground where he pitched his tent he purchased from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of silver. There he set up an altar and called it El Elohe Israel.
And we go to the Targums, it says that he did what at that altar? There he gave the tithes which he had set apart of all that he had before Elohim. So Jacob gave his brother the gifts to soften his heart, and he tithes to right his wrongs that he owed to the Most High through his vow. So it all comes full circle at the end of this portion, and we're going to get a little bit more information in the finishing with the book of Jasher. We're going to read chapter 32, verses 56 through 60, then 71 through 73 to finish off this portion. And when Esau saw Jacob running towards him, he also ran towards him, and he embraced him, and he fell upon his neck, and they kissed and they wept. And Elohim put fear and kindness towards Jacob in the hearts of the men that came with Esau, and they also kissed Jacob and embraced him. And also Eliphaz, the son of Esau, with his 4 brothers, sons of Esau, wept with Jacob, and they kissed him and embraced him, for the fear of Jacob had fallen upon them all. And Esau lifted up his eyes and saw the women with their offspring and the children of Jacob walking behind Jacob and bowing along the road to Esau. And Esau said unto Jacob, Who are these with thee, my brother? Are they thy children or thy servants? And Jacob answered Esau and said, They are my children, which Elohim has graciously given to thy servant. And then now jump into the end of this chapter 32, 71. Behold, I will come unto thee to Seir, to dwell there together as thou hast spoken. Go thou then with thy people, for I will follow thee. And Jacob said this to Esau in order to remove Esau and his men from him, so that Jacob might afterwards go to his father's house to the land of Canaan. And Esau hearkened to the voice of Jacob. And Esau returned with the 400 men that were with him on the road to Seir, and Jacob and all belonging to him went that day as far as the extremities of the land of Canaan in the borders, and he remained there some time. And that is the conclusion of week 10 of this Torah portion reading. Tawada Yasharallah for joining me for this line by line reading of the Torah. As we are commanded to do on Shabbats, is to gather and read his scripture. So may Abba Barak each and every one of you for seeking his face in his word on his set apart assembly. Shabbat Shalom Yasharallah.